On my last visit to the biker warehouse, where I've tested some awesome bikes like Husqvarna's, Honda's, Suzuki's, I stumbled over this particular bike. Now it grabbed my attention because the trellis frame, the red color, the white center stripe reminded me very much of a Ducati. Now the bike next to it was the same model in different colors, and that reminded me of the MV Agusta Titano, the F4. Reason for that, it was anthracite, gloss black with some red trimmings. And if you look at this bike, it's got some Italian design cues, Italian flair. It's super cool. Now, when I found out what this is, it's a TVS Apache 310RR. Now, I don't know about you, but in the 80s when I got into biking, the bikes were not this cool and classy. They were simple bikes, but we had tons of fun and it made huge memories. So I definitely had to take this bike out, test it, ride it, review it. And in this episode, I'm going to share the story on this Indian TVS Apache 310RR with you. Now, before I start walking around, this is absolutely a stunning looking motorcycle. And if you look carefully, you can definitely see a little bit of Italian flair, design cues from the Italian, whether it's Ducati, a little bit of Moto Guzzi, or MV Agusta. Having a look at this red with a white center line, my Ducati Monster S4R had that look about it. If you look at the trellis frame, as I mentioned, or the rear seat with those two openings either side, started with a Ducati 999, 1098R, even the MV Agusta F4. So all round stunning look. It even has a little bit of an Italian flag theme going there. This bike has flair, and it does prove that small capacity bikes don't have to be boring. And more about this company, TVS. Now, TVS is a company based in India. It's the TVS Motor Group, and interestingly enough, this is the third largest motorcycle manufacturer in India and the fifth largest motorcycle manufacturer in the world. Now, they have subsidiaries all over as well. For example, in the UK, where they produce Nortons, they have a subsidiary. They have a subsidiary in Switzerland where they produce the Swiss e-mobility group motorcycles, and they have the joint venture going with BMW. As I said, they designed this particular motor together with BMW. Now, if they're good enough for the Bavarians, I'm sure they're pretty good enough for you and I as well. So when it comes to colors or design feature, you can see flair, you can see Italian design. And also, if you look at it quickly like this, it could look like a proper track day weapon. Where would you put this bike? I would say segment of the premium entry superbike, a lightweight bike. And again, I think on pure looks, I'm going to ride it now, it does prove that these entry level or beginner bikes do not have to be boring. I'm going to jump right into the specs, starting off with this motor. Interestingly, as I mentioned, it is the same motor, and it shares the motor with the BMW G310R, designed together with the Bavarians. It is a 4-stroke single-cylinder, reverse inclined, single overhead cam, 4 valves. Exact cc is 312.2 cc, and it's known as a 310, and it is liquid cooled. All goes through a wet multi-plate clutch, 6-speed gearbox, final drive chain. Now, the output on this motor is 34 horsepower, which equates to about 25 kilowatts, and it's 9,700 rpms. Torque is 27 newton meters at 7,700 rpms. When you talk about suspension, up front, the inverted upside down, modern looking 41mm KYB, travel 140mm, looks stunning in the gold. At the rear, you have a dual aluminium swing arm with a motor shock over here, travel 131mm. When it comes to brakes, single disc up front, 300mm, and it is a 4-piston caliper. This bike is fitted with the ABS, which is option. At the rear, you have a single disc as well, 240mm, single piston, and the ABS sensor and wheel over here. Wheels, 17-inch front and rear in the 5-spoke light alloy die cast. If you look carefully at the design, it's exactly the same wheel as the BMW. Once again, the BMW I reviewed had this wheel in red. 17-inch front and rear as mentioned, 110mm shod width and 150 at the rear. Seat height is a comfortable and really low 810mm, which is great for beginners to feel comfortable and confident, both feet flat on the ground. The wet weight on this bike is 169.5 kilos, also low. Fuel capacity on this bike is 11 liters. 0 to 60 figure is claimed at 2.9 seconds. 0 to 100 kilometers figure is 7.2 seconds. Top speed roundabout plus minus 160 kilometers per hour. Very sporty looking. I love the look of the rear with the rear hugger, covers the coil over here, over there, that little look. You got your grab handles here for your pillion rider. However, I don't know so much if you're talking 34 horsepower if this is a good pillion rider vehicle. It's definitely a bit of a track weapon. This rear number plate holder is quick and easy to remove. These quick clips on the fairings to get into it, to adjust. Light bike, so I would say target market would be beginners, novices getting into motorcycling. You look cool on a bike like this. Also the guys that want to learn about a track. This is a light bike, not too much horsepower. You're not going to high side yourself, and you can hone your skills on a bike like this. The ABS brakes on this particular bike is dual channel ABS. It is not disableable, and TVS actually claims best in class when it comes to braking. So if you cannot disable, sorry guys, no stoppies for you. When we look at the electronics and tech on this bike a little bit, if I do switch on LED headlights, as you can see over here, if I put the high beams on, it looks fantastic. Going to the back, if you look at the rear lights, they call them an Omega style. It looks really cool. Looks like two devil horns actually. And if you go to this TFT dash, switching it on and off again, looks brilliant. As you can see, racing since 1982. It is in color, vertical layout. You see your RPMs around the outside, your fuel, your temperature, gear indicator. Very cool for novices, as you have to know what gears you're running through, and all your fuel range, odo, side stand in red, even the time on top, full display. So on that 5-inch TFT, you have the 5 rider modes. You have the urban, the rain, the sport, the track. And if you select urban or rain, it drops your horsepower down from 25 kilowatt to 19 kilowatt, and your torque slightly. Overall, no traction control on this bike. However, the TVS say the tech is in place. It is ride-by-wire throttle and the smart connectivity via your smartphone. You can have navigation, turn-by-turn navigation. I think what we're going to do now is jump on the bike and ride it, because proof is in the pudding. But looks, specs, this bike really works for me, and I wish back in the day when we started biking, this was available to us. All round, it is a stunning looking bike, and I do think that TVS keeps its own and can hold their head up high against the more established and bigger brands, such as BMW when it's the G310R or the KTM 390, which I would put as opposition to this bike. Startup is not a keyless start, it's a keyed start. Stunning dash in a vertical 5-inch as mentioned. And other than that, nice layout, not too complicated, all your controls familiar, and here we go. starting off with a seated position, it's a great position. At my 6-foot frame, it is definitely a superbike seated position, a sporty position, but not very aggressive, like track focused. The footrests are fairly high up, would give you good ground clearance for cornering, but they're not cramped underneath my bum that I would get uncomfortable after a while. The cushioning on the seat feels fairly soft, like a gel coat type seat, not too hard like some of the superbikes I've ridden. The rake to the front with this petrol tank is not too far forward. These clip-on handlebars are more level to the ground than sloping down, so great feel. So sitting perfectly upright, no weight on my lower back, I can touch this with my fingers. I just go forward a little bit, so not too much weight on my wrists and forearms, and my lower back is fairly neutral. So overall seated position, great. Look and feel from the cockpit, stunning. This dash easily readable. If you look, you pull off, the numbers come up very quickly, and tucking forward, sitting down, it feels great. You feel like a little racer on this thing, and this is the perfect bike that would hone your skills as a rider, because not too much tech. It allows for you to grow into biking. It's a bike with the horsepower and the cc capacity to be just right, that you have to learn about acceleration and what gear you need to be in. Do you ride it in the power or torque? There's not too much torque on this bike, so you do ride it in the power. Acceleration, quick, definitely quick. You can catch tickets here on this bike, no problem. You'll ride illegal speed limits. You'll accelerate, out accelerate most cars. So solid from that point of view. Solid feel, it tracks well, runs good, and I like the way they've covered everything. There's covers for everything, there's no wiring or anything exposed. It's just a well finished bike that has fantastic looks and has flair to it. So not a boring bike, a good looking bike. And I think as a first time bike owner or a youngster getting into biking, you would actually feel cool and proud owning something like this. It looks fantastic from here. The one quirky thing on this bike that I found would be the rear view mirrors are very far forward. I'm used to having them here in the fairing somewhere closer, so they're far forward. You really have to reach forward to try and set them. They're not too bad. Vibrations, I would say minimal, nothing to be concerned about. I do sometimes see my elbows. I just have to pull them in a little bit, but I don't know, I haven't played enough. Maybe there's a different setting. The suspension feels pretty good, not too hard that it's actually uncomfortable, perfect for the road use, and I think stiff enough for track use. It's a bike that on the road you've got enough speed not to be a moving obstacle to traffic. You would have enough speed to catch tickets, enough speed to have to hone your talents a little bit. Tech wise, it's enough. Comfort is great, ability great for the road, and I think perfect for a guy to hone his skills and go on a weekend onto the track and play a little bit and learn how to put the knee on the ground on a bike like that. I think it would be absolutely stunning. You'd have to carry a proper bit of corner speed, put the knee on the ground and just roll on the throttle. It's not a bike that would high-side you, throw you off. You have a track mode in the rider modes, so all round a stunning piece. The stereotypes on this bike I would throw out the window. It is not quite what you expect if you spending big money on one of the Germans, Austrians or top Japanese superbikes. No, we're not there, but again, you got to remember, what are you paying for? This is a really cost-effective entry-level bike. For the amount of money you're spending, you get a proper little motorcycle. I've ridden this motor before in the BMW, and I did rave about it, and I did say if my daughters were to get into motorcycling, it would be a motorcycle I would recommend for them. To find neutral, very easy. I've selected neutral a few times, and on not one occasion have I struggled finding neutral. It is a really nice gearbox, smooth. The lever action is soft. You could pull it with 2 fingers. It's definitely a motorcycle that you have to be in the correct gear at all times, because at 20 something Newton meter you don't have enough torque to be in the wrong gear. So great bike to hone your skills on and work the gearbox, run through the gearbox, learn to ride sporty. So on a weekend track day, to improve riding, learn new tricks. Going to see what it feels like on a faster sweep here. Hanging off the bike a little bit, feels great. Serious illegal speed, but feels great through sweeps. Confident. The suspension is quite nice mix. It's firm, but definitely not firm like some of the super bikes that you want to dial it out a little bit for the road. This is perfect for commuting, but firm enough for sport riding. I think all around the package is a nice blend between everyday functionality. Even if I go for the undulations here, the suspension absorbs it. And I think what's very important on a bike like this, if this is your budget, you don't want to be riding something that looks like a budget bike. And I think that's where this bike really does get an 11 out of 10 for me. It is a budget bike, it is a very cost-effective bike, however it does not look like a budget bike. It looks like it has flair of a thoroughbred. So if you want to call it a baby Ducati or baby Italian steed, proper little motorcycle. The throttle feel is also pretty good. It's predictive, however there's a little bit of play before it actually propels you forward. But again, these are things where you get overcritical and nitpick, and if you look at what you pay for a bike like this, it really is top drawer kit for the money spent. The dash is one of those things. If you're sitting on this cockpit and you look at this bike, the shape of the tank, the lines, the ridges, the tech on the dash, it does feel like a proper piece. At this traffic light, we're going to do a little bit of a pull-off and show you the acceleration on the bike. Stunning. Again, you have to be in the right gear on a bike like this with this power delivery. So here we go. Tuck in a little bit. So as you can see, we clipped just over the 130 k's an hour. Not a problem for a bike like this. Drop down, you got more power. Overtaking, also not a problem. Again, you learn to be in the right gear at any given time. Lane splitting, comfortable. It's a very narrow little bike. The weight is very low. It feels like the old 125s. Low center of gravity, light, nimble bike. Geometry is brilliant. And as I said, what I really like about it, it is comfortable. From the word go, you throw your leg over it, is really comfortable. Riding position, ergonomics, and sitting here looking at the dash, you definitely think you've spent way more money than you have. I've really enjoyed my ride on this tiny little TVS. When I say tiny, I'm talking about I've been spending a lot of my time on big bikes, liter capacity, 1200 and upwards adventure motorcycle bikes with 200 horsepower, 180 plus horsepower, big behemoth of motorcycles, even baggers. So to get back onto a small capacity bike is huge amounts of fun. You actually forget how much fun you had as a teenager. You got to rev sometimes, really rev the nuts of it, grab a handful of it and be in the right gear at any given time, change up and down, multi-changing, ride it like a Moto3 rider. It's huge amounts of fun. So I really enjoyed my ride. I hope you guys enjoyed this ride and review on this stunning TVS Apache 310RR. I think I must do more reviews on smaller capacity bikes as they're actually huge amounts of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and if you did, please remember, as always, hit that like button, give me a thumbs up, and most important of all, please hit that subscribe button to help me build the channel. And if you like, the reminder bell so you always know when I'm uploading something new.